Hey everyone, welcome. Get comfortable, and let's get into tonight's Reddit stories. A guy takes a last-minute high-paying work trip over the holidays, and his girlfriend begs to tag along. He keeps warning her over and over that it's not a vacation. But within 24 hours, she's in tears, in lingerie, and then on a train home. Somewhere between, "I told you this is work," and "you're ruining my romantic plans," this whole thing completely blows up. My girlfriend is angry that she set herself up to fail, and I am entirely unsympathetic. I'm a 38-year-old guy, self-employed as a building surveyor. About a week before Christmas, a client got in touch and asked if I could take on an urgent job between Christmas and New Year. I don't have kids, I didn't really have anything planned for that time, and the money they were offering was really good for a rush job. So I agreed to do 2 days of work, today and tomorrow, the 29th and 30th of December. The client is great, the money is great, and I had no other plans. The work is in London, and I live in the north of England, so like usual for my business, that meant staying in a hotel. The plan was to stay Sunday night to Tuesday night, then travel back on Wednesday, New Year's Eve, and enjoy the festivities at home. I told my girlfriend, she's 33, about this job I'd taken on, and she immediately wanted to come with me. I asked her why, and she said we could have a nice break in the capital and spend some time together. I told her this is not a holiday, it's work, and she was welcome to come if she could entertain herself. But I'd be working, so she better not complain about me getting up at 6 in the morning. She said that was fine. She could see some friends, go to the markets, the shops, do tourist stuff, all that. So I added her name to the hotel room and booked her a train ticket. It's central London, and I'm not paying a fortune to park 45 minutes away from the site. We traveled yesterday afternoon and got to the hotel, and that's where the first issue came up. It's a budget hotel, part of a big chain I use regularly with very basic facilities. She didn't think it was nice enough for a romantic break. I reminded her this is not a romantic break, and I'm not spending business income on anything I don't need, like a fancy hotel room, and that the room was booked before she even asked to come. She pulled a face but didn't say anything else about it. I got into my usual work routine, unpacking clothes, putting tools onto charge, then heading out to scout the property and nearby amenities. I told her I was going to do this, asked if she needed anything from the shops, and headed out, with her just getting into the shower as I left. I came back about an hour later with my usual haul of bottled water, protein bars, and bananas, which normally gets me through the working day until I find a kebab house or something similar for a hot evening meal. I'm not poor by any means, but whatever I spend when I'm away still comes out of my profits, so I try to keep things reasonably cheap. When I got back, it was around 6, and she was dressed up in a nice outfit and halfway through doing her makeup. I assumed she'd made plans with a friend, so I asked where she was going. She got pretty angry and snapped at me to put my nice clothes on so we could go out. I pointed out that I hadn't brought any nice clothes, and that I wasn't going out because I had work the next morning. That went down like a lead balloon. She immediately started crying and said I'd ruined her plans for a nice meal at some restaurant she'd apparently made a reservation for. I reminded her again that I'm not on holiday, I'm up at 6, and I was doing nothing more than eating, sleeping, and playing on my Switch 2. That aggravated her more. Cue more tears and another complaint about the hotel not being nice enough. I told her she was upset entirely because of her own actions and her refusal to listen to me, and that I wasn't sympathetic to her tears when she had unilaterally decided my work trip was our romantic getaway. She locked herself in the bathroom, so I went out and got us some food. By the time I got back, she seemed to have thought things over and apologized to me. She changed into her comfy clothes. We ate, chilled out for a bit, doom scrolling, then watched a film before bed. I set my alarm for the morning and reminded her I was up at 6, then got into bed while she was finishing up in the bathroom. As she came out of the bathroom, she made a big deal about me looking at her. I had literally just put my head on the pillow, so I told her whatever it was could wait until tomorrow and to just get into bed. She shouted at me, "I've put in all this effort and you're not even going to look?" So I reluctantly rolled over, grabbed my glasses, flicked the bedside lamp on, and looked over to see her in a very sexy maid's outfit with all the trimmings. She climbed onto the bed and immediately started trying to initiate sex, but I stopped her and told her yes, she looked amazing, but it was nearly midnight. I was up in a few hours, and I needed to get some rest. She shouted, "Well, fuck you," and locked herself in the bathroom again. I took my glasses off, turned the light off, and rolled back over to sleep. I'm not sure exactly how long afterwards because I was in that semi-sleep state, but she got into bed, gave me a hug, and said she was sorry for shouting. I got up the next morning, got showered and dressed quietly, then gave her a quick kiss on the forehead, told her I loved her, that I was off to work, and left. The working day was pretty normal, nothing special, and I left around 6, getting back to the hotel just before past. She was in the room when I got back. I asked if she'd had a good day, and she said she'd been shopping, which was obvious from the various bags scattered around. I went to get in the shower, and when I came out, she told me she'd laid clothes out for me. I looked on the bed and found a whole brand new outfit, shirt, trousers, and shoes. I told her thanks, but I was getting into my comfy gear since I'd been in work gear all day, and she snapped, "You're not going out in your scruffs." That caught me off guard, so I asked, "Why not?" Which led to her telling me that we were going for food and drinks with a friend of hers and the friend's husband. At that point, I lost my shit. This was the third time in about 24 hours that I'd had to remind her I'm here for work, not whatever stupid ideas she had in her head. She got upset at me calling her ideas stupid, but I came back with the fact that unilaterally planning romantic ideas on a working fucking trip was incredibly fucking stupid, which made her start crying. I told her I wasn't interested in her crocodile tears, that she's a full-grown woman who has chosen to ignore everything she's been told, make plans for other people that they have no interest in or ability to follow through on, and that she was now upset because she wasn't getting what she wanted. She said I didn't care about her, which I flipped right back on her, pointing out that she had literally decided to ignore everything I'd told her repeatedly. I said she could sulk from now until 2036 if she wanted, but she was entirely at fault for this, and I was taking no responsibility for her being upset, as it was wholly self-inflicted. She was bawling her eyes out at this point, so I got dressed and went out to get food, texting her to let me know if she wanted anything. She immediately replied saying she was going home. Thankfully, she had an open return train ticket. I got back to the hotel about 30 minutes ago, and she has indeed packed up her stuff and left. Now I'm sat alone in my hotel room, picking at the food I got for her, struggling with one simple question. How could I have made it any clearer that my work trip is not our romantic getaway? Reddit was pretty divided on this one. A lot of people said the girlfriend had no business treating a clearly defined work trip like a surprise romantic getaway. OP told her multiple times he'd be up at 6 in the morning, that it was business, budget hotel, cheap food, the usual work routine. From that angle, her making reservations, buying outfits, and arranging social plans without checking was setting herself up for disappointment. But several commenters also pointed out that OP comes across as very rigid and maybe not that into her. They argued that even on a work trip, he could have met her halfway. One early dinner, a couple of hours out, or a quick hookup before bed. To them, it started looking less like protecting work time and more like digging his heels in to be right, with zero flexibility. Some people focused on the bigger picture. If she regularly ignores what he says and builds up fantasy plans in her head, that's a relationship problem. But if he's always this uncompromising and dismissive, calling her ideas stupid, brushing off her feelings as crocodile tears, that's also not sustainable. One blunt commenter summed it up by saying, "If you're going to be this strict about work trips, you probably shouldn't bring your partner along at all." What do you think? Was this just a classic case of one partner not listening? Or was OP way too inflexible and harsh about his boundaries? If you were in his shoes, or hers, what would you have done differently on that trip? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoy these stories, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. When your husband looks you in the eye and says, "This is my house, and you live here at my mercy," can you ever really unhear that? How do you decide if it was just a cruel moment, or the truth finally slipping out? My husband is 29, I'm 28, and he told me it's his house and I live here at his mercy. I don't know what to do. Yesterday, my husband and I got into an argument, and he said something that completely shattered me. He told me it's his house, that I live there at his mercy, and that I have no right to tell him what to do. And this was all because I asked him to put his clothes in the laundry basket. Hearing that felt like a punch to the gut, especially after everything I've sacrificed to be with him. I gave up my career, left my family and friends, and moved to a foreign country I knew nothing about, and now I'm here without any real support system. He earns a very high salary, and even though I also work remotely, I make much less and can't contribute financially in the same way. Since the argument, I've been extremely stressed, to the point where I've been physically sick and throwing up. For the first time, I truly regret the choices I made. He's been apologizing over and over, especially after seeing how badly this has affected me, and he says he was overwhelmed at work and unfairly took it out on me. But I'm really struggling to trust him, or move past what he said. Before we got married, I was hesitant because it felt like such a huge risk, and he begged me to take that leap with him. Now I'm scared that what he said during that argument is what he really believes deep down. If that's truly how he sees me, I know I will leave. But the thought of going back to my home country and rebuilding my life from scratch is terrifying. I honestly don't know what to do. People in the comments are pointing out that the longer she stays in this situation, the more power he has over her. One of the top replies says that if she already feels at his mercy, she should quietly start figuring out an exit plan, and once she has that in place, the rest of the decisions will become clearer. Another common theme is that she's still young, and while starting over in her home country would be scary and difficult, it's still better than spending her life dependent on someone who talks to her like that. Rebuilding from scratch is hard, but commenters say it's nothing compared to living under someone else's control. And a lot of people are warning her not to gaslight herself about what he said. They're reminding her that she gave up everything to be with him, and in that moment, he showed her exactly how he views that sacrifice, that she's at his mercy. Several commenters say that, in her shoes, they would leave immediately rather than wait for it to get worse. What do you think? Was this just a horrible thing said in anger, or did he reveal how he truly sees her in their relationship? If you were in a foreign country, financially dependent, and heard your partner say this, would you try to work it out or start planning your escape? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you've ever had to rebuild your life from scratch, share your story below. Imagine being separated from your spouse for over a decade, totally at peace with it, even becoming best friends again, and then they suddenly die, leaving you with the wedding rings and a lot of complicated feelings. What do you even do with something that's both a symbol of a past marriage and a reminder of a friend you've just lost? I'm a 40-year-old woman who separated from my husband, who was 46, and then he died. Okay, I'm just gonna jump right in. I married my husband in 2010. We separated in 2013, and there was no bad blood at all. We just got married too young and grew apart. There was no abuse, no cheating. We just realized we were better off as friends. And that's exactly what we became. We both moved on and ended up becoming best friends. We talked almost every day, whether it was just sharing memes, TikToks, snaps, or just funny little day-to-day stories. About 6 years ago, I moved away, but we still stayed in touch, and every time he was in town, we'd meet up and just be totally cool with how everything had gone. Neither of us filed for divorce in those 12 years we were separated. Mostly because we were lazy, but also partly because we just never felt like we needed to. We were never going to get back together, but it felt too mean, I guess. I don't really know how to explain it, haha. Last year, he died suddenly. I was devastated because I'd lost a good friend and confidant. He was a really good person, like genuinely a kind soul, and the world is a little dimmer since he left. He was funny, smart, generous, and sweet. Just a really, really good person. While I was doing some cleaning, I realized I still had my engagement ring, my wedding band, and his wedding band tucked away in an old jewelry box. It made me sad to see them. Not because I was sad that our relationship didn't work out. We were both totally fine with it ending, and, like I said, we had both moved on. I was sad because it was a reminder of him, and losing a friend is always really hard. I have the rings because I paid for all of them, and he told me I should keep them for that reason. I don't really want to keep this reminder of my failed marriage, especially since I'm in a serious, committed relationship with someone else now. It just feels kind of morbid and inappropriate to hang on to them. Any advice on what I can do with them? Thank you in advance. A lot of people in the comments pushed back on the idea that it's inappropriate to keep the rings at all. They pointed out that these rings are part of her life story, and now also a connection to someone she cared about who has passed away. From that perspective, holding on to them as a memento isn't weird or disrespectful. Others suggested practical options if she truly doesn't want them in their current form. Some recommended selling them, or having the metal melted down and turned into something new, like a different piece of jewelry, maybe earrings or a pendant. So the sentimental value is preserved without it feeling like a failed marriage symbol. And then one commenter raised a more technical concern. Since they were still legally married when he died, they asked whether he left a will. If he didn't, they warned she might have bigger legal and estate issues to deal with than just what to do with the rings. What do you think she should do with the rings? Keep them as they are, turn them into something new, or let them go completely? And if you were in a long-term separation like this, would you keep the legal marriage going or make it official? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoy these stories, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. A woman is 36 weeks pregnant with her first child when, during a work trip overseas, her husband suddenly tells her he's fallen in love with someone else. Now he says he wants to co-parent, but he's distant, obsessed with this new woman, and even uncomfortable being around his pregnant wife. With the baby due in just weeks, she's trying to figure out how you even start co-parenting with someone who already has one foot out the door. My husband wants to leave me for someone else while I'm heavily pregnant with his child. How can we co-parent now that this has happened? Too long. Didn't read. I'm having a baby in about 3 weeks. My husband met someone else while I was away, says he doesn't love me anymore, but still wants to co-parent, even though he's suddenly very uncomfortable around me. My husband and I have been married for 2 years, together for 6. Last month, I went overseas for a work trip, and while I was gone, he met someone else. About 3 weeks into my 4-week trip, I could tell something was off, so I asked him what was going on. That's when he told me he'd met someone else and that he has very strong feelings for her. I came home early from my trip to try to work things out, but he had zero interest in working things out with me at all, so we've been separated now for just a couple of weeks. This is our first baby, and the baby is due in just a few weeks now. I'm 36 weeks pregnant. And while I do have a lot of support from family and friends, I honestly don't know how my husband and I could possibly work together to raise this child when he's suddenly so uncomfortable even being around me. I've tried talking to him about it, and he says he doesn't really know why he's so uncomfortable around me. He told me he's been very unhappy for many years and has been masking and hiding his true feelings and his true self the whole time. He's been unofficially diagnosed with bipolar, but he doesn't go to therapy and he isn't on any medication to help with it. I've seen his ups and downs throughout our relationship, and before I went overseas, I was seeing a lot more lows than I usually would, but he refused to seek help for it for whatever reason. On top of that, he seems completely infatuated with this other person. He's been buying her gifts, staying up really late most nights, talking to her on the phone, doing lots of extra activities with her, and doing things he normally wouldn't do. He talks about all of her interests as if they're his own now. He only met her the day after I left to go overseas, and since then, he claims he's in love with her. He's already met her parents and has future plans and fantasies with her as well. All of this makes it really hard for me to believe he'll be able to step up and be a good enough parent for our baby, because his focus seems to be so much on this other woman. He absolutely loves children, and this was a planned pregnancy that we both wanted. We wanted to be parents together, but because of how quickly everything has changed, I don't know how I can trust him now. He says he still really wants to co-parent with me, but he doesn't treat me very respectfully anymore and seems to lack a lot of empathy for me in all of this. Because of that, I have no idea if I can trust him with parenting our child. He seems mentally unstable at the moment, and that scares me. I'm now predicting a few possible outcomes. 1. He won't want to be in the child's life at all. 2. He'll be neglectful of the child, leaving me to do all the parenting while he spends his time out doing things with this girl. 3. He could put a lot of his unaddressed traumas onto the child if he doesn't seek therapy. For some more context, my husband told me that he and this girl have talked about putting their romantic relationship on hold because she isn't sure if she wants to be with someone who is married and about to have a child. I don't know what that's going to mean for his behavior around the house, but it might change the dynamic. So far, since she brought this up with him, he's just been very sad and withdrawn. As for me, I've been absolutely heartbroken by all of this. I feel trapped and betrayed by him. He's gone against his own morals and values by doing this to me. I'm extremely mad at him, but mostly I'm just so sad. If he had been honest earlier on, I wouldn't have let it get this far. I never wanted to make him uncomfortable or unhappy, so it breaks my heart that I've suddenly become this uncomfortable person for him. And I hope that one day I can understand what it is I did, if anything, that made him not want to be around me or honest with me. Right now, I'm trying to focus on the baby, which is hard because it doesn't give me much space to process my heartbreak. Has anyone been in this position before? Does anyone have advice about what to do when you're separating and the child you have together isn't even here yet? What can I possibly do to make the situation better for both of us? I've tried looking for other people's stories like this, but I've had trouble finding advice. I'm sure part of it is just waiting until the baby is here. I didn't want to make any quick or harsh decisions that might make things more difficult, like kicking him out of the house or me leaving. Being this pregnant, I don't have much energy to focus on my relationship with him. It's exhausting. I'm trying to set everything up for this baby as my first priority. But for my own sanity, I really want advice on what I can do to help myself and maybe even figure out a healthier dynamic between me and my husband. Some people have told me that he has to leave, and I understand why, but I feel like I need to give him a chance to be a parent to this child. That would let me see if it's possible for us to do this together, and to see if he can be the parent I used to think he could be. Thank you so much for listening to everything. I really appreciate any ideas, advice, or hearing from others whose stories and situations might be similar. Reddit's top response is very blunt. Talk to a divorce attorney immediately and follow their instructions to the letter. Commenters say that whatever his reasons, he chose to pursue a younger woman while his wife is heavily pregnant, and that OP's priority now has to be protecting herself legally and financially before and after childbirth. They stress getting her ducks in a row so he can't take advantage of her when she's vulnerable and recovering. Another highly upvoted comment focuses on geography and custody. They warn that wherever she gives birth is likely to establish the baby's legal residence, which can make it very hard to relocate later. Their advice: if her strongest support system is somewhere else, she should get to them now before the baby is born and worry about retrieving her belongings later. A third big comment expands on the legal and practical steps. They say she doesn't need this drama at such a late stage of pregnancy and should consult a lawyer to understand her rights, file for divorce, and secure alimony and child support if appropriate. They suggest opening personal bank accounts and moving money to protect herself financially. And if she can't get him out of the house right away, at least create physical separation by having him out of the bedroom. Finally, they urge her to lean on her community. Tell trusted people what's going on and ask for help. Because solo parenting is hard, and having extra adults around for support can make a huge difference. What do you think about this situation? If you were in her position, 36 weeks pregnant and suddenly facing separation, how would you handle co-parenting, living arrangements, and legal steps? Let me know your thoughts and what advice you'd give her in the comments below. And if you've been through something similar, feel free to share your story. Imagine thinking you might be having a heart attack in the middle of the night. You call an ambulance, and then you spend the next hour and a half completely alone while your partner sleeps through all of it. Is that just deep sleep and stress, or is it a huge red flag for the relationship? My partner is 31, I'm 30, and he went back to sleep after I called an ambulance for myself. Hi all, I'm trying to figure out if this is normal in relationships or not. Last night, I suddenly got this pain in my left shoulder blade. Then it started spreading up into my neck, into my chest, and all the way down my left arm. My fingers and arm were tingling, which has never happened to me before, especially not with pain like that. I told my partner, he's 31, about the pain, and he tried to massage my arm and shoulder to see if it would help. It didn't. When we went to bed, the pain was still there. He told me to call an ambulance if it got worse, and then he went straight to sleep. About 5 minutes after that conversation, the pain kept shooting through my arm, and the chest pain got worse, so I called an ambulance just to be safe. I honestly thought I was having a heart attack. I had no idea what was happening with my body. While I was waiting for the ambulance, I was in the living room by myself for about 45 minutes. During that time, I kept going in and out of the bedroom, on and off, trying to wake my partner up to let him know that I'd called an ambulance and to tell him to check on our 4-month-old baby and feed him if he woke up. He did not wake up. I tried again and again, and nothing. He was snoring louder than our baby. When I finally managed to wake him up, about an hour into waiting for the ambulance, he asked if I was okay. I told him that I had called an ambulance, that I was having chest pain, and that he needed to feed our baby if he woke up. He nodded and said he'd feed the baby if he woke up. And then he went straight back to sleep. That was the part that really upset me. He didn't offer any comfort. He didn't stay up with me. He didn't really check on me at all. I was all alone in the living room at 1:30 in the morning, waiting for an ambulance, in pain, and worrying about how I was going to look after my baby if I ended up in the hospital. After an hour and a half of waiting for the ambulance at 2 in the morning, I decided to call them back and cancel. I figured if it were a heart attack, it would have gotten worse, and I'd probably be dead by then. The pain was still there, but I just sucked it up, went back to the bedroom, checked on my baby, and saw he was hungry. So I made him a bottle and fed him. The whole time, my partner is sprawled in the middle of the bed, snoring, and he even has the audacity to roll over with his back facing me while I'm sitting there feeding my baby on the bed next to him. To say the least, I was mad at him. Mad at how casual he was about everything. What if I actually had been having a heart attack, and he didn't even wake up to feed the baby? I had to do it myself, still in pain. I felt so alone in that moment and really started questioning whether I want this relationship or not. Have any of you gone through this or something similar? If so, how did you handle it? And is this a normal thing or not? I get that he's tired, he's been working 6-day weeks, and he's also on antidepressants, so I thought maybe that makes it harder for him to wake up and try to attend to me, etc. Update. I went to an urgent care clinic today to get the pain checked out. They ran an ECG, checked my breathing, and asked all the usual questions. It turns out it could be a pinched nerve and soft tissue inflammation that's causing the radiating pain and the tingling in my fingers. I've been referred to a physio. No heart attack, thank God. Update number 2. I had a conversation with him about what happened last night. He said he doesn't remember me talking to him about calling an ambulance in the middle of the night. But he does remember when I told him I had canceled the ambulance when I got back into bed at 2 in the morning. He said he's a deep sleeper and he can't help not waking up. He also said that he knew I wasn't having a heart attack and that I should have created more urgency if I really was worried I was having one, instead of being calm and walking around like I normally would. He said he didn't think anything serious was going on. He also told me I should have told him explicitly what I needed from him during that time, instead of expecting him to react to what was happening. He mentioned that if anyone around the world was having a heart attack, they would have called the ambulance because they wouldn't be able to take the baby there. I asked him how he would feel if he went through what I went through yesterday, and he responded with, "I wouldn't know because I've never experienced it." I replied, "You can't put yourself in my shoes. That's what I mean when I say lack of empathy." I told him I felt like he didn't care in that moment, and he responded, "What you felt and how it was is completely different." And what he took from the conversation was that no matter what he does, it's not good enough, that he is an asshole, and that I expect him to read my mind. Reddit was furious on her behalf. The top comment said her partner's behavior was absolutely appalling. They couldn't understand how a man who supposedly loves his wife and has a 4-month-old baby could just go back to sleep after hearing her symptoms. That commenter said they wouldn't be able to trust a partner who reacted that way, especially when he didn't even seem to bother checking on their child. They compared it to their own husband, who would have probably loaded everyone into the car and driven to the hospital himself if the ambulance took too long while handling everything else. Another highly upvoted comment focused on her health. They urged her to go to urgent care or the ER as soon as possible, pointing out that she might have had a mild heart attack or something else serious. Even if it turned out to be a muscle spasm, they said she owed it to herself and her baby to make sure nothing was wrong with her heart. And one of the bluntest comments summed it up in a single line. This man cannot be counted on in a crisis, and she might actually be better off alone. What do you think about this situation? Is this just someone being a deep sleeper and bad at showing empathy? Or is it a massive red flag about how he handles emergencies and his partner's well-being? If you were in her shoes, what would you do next? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoy these stories, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.